Alrighty, it is Thursday, so that means our good friend Jason Boyette stops by to say, hey Amarillo. Today he's spilling the tea though. Jason Boyette, who was your guest this week?
Spilling the tea.
Do you like that?
Yeah,
That's
that was
what
a good one.
The kids call that gossip.
You've done this before. So yes, I'm spilling the tea with Justin Howe, who is an entrepreneur who owns Texas Tea here locally in Amarillo. He's been in a bunch of different businesses. Somebody that you would call a serial entrepreneur. He's starting businesses, just keeps experimenting and trying new things. Well, he launched Texas Tea here in Amarillo several years ago. It's been a success. I'm sure you probably go there.
Yeah, of course.
And so he took that concept and wanted to turn it into a franchise. And so what Justin has been doing over the past couple of years is modifying it, fixing it up, and then turning it into a franchise called HTO that's spread from here to Florida. So over the next year or so, there will be dozens of these locations popping up.
I saw a truck, I told you last week, I saw an HTO truck parked outside of Texas Tea a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, surely he's not franchising that, and surely he is franchising it.
The very first HTO franchise is actually at Hodgetown. It's inside the ballpark where you can buy tea. So that's Texas Tea, but it's under the HTO banner.
And he talks about, in the interview, he talks about why he had to go HTO instead of Texas Tea, and it's sort of the journey that goes.
It's one of those trademark kinds of things, regional trademarks. Somebody else in Texas was selling Texas Tea, and so he had to find a name that he could do it in Amarillo, but he couldn't really expand that name outside of Amarillo. So that's why it transitioned to HTO. Did
you find yourself when you were talking to him, you were like, okay, can I sign up to go ahead and buy a franchise? I mean, I was listening and I was very convinced.
I didn't have that thought because he's sort of got that market covered here in Amarillo, and I don't want to move elsewhere to do that.
Got you, okay.
However, he's one of those guys that is so analytical. He's into the systems and all that stuff. He has put together a package to where if you wanted to put in one of those franchises, it would be super easy because he's got a team that does everything from picking the best location to the delivery of the tea, helping you run the whole thing. I mean, it's a full package.
I think it's interesting, too, because his upbringing and his parents were entrepreneurs, too, owned Buns Over Texas. Am I right?
Right.
Okay, so every sort of piece has fallen into place and complemented everything because he was in the construction business as well.
Right. Each one of those things he's done, he's learned something from it. He's figured out, how do I make this successful? And then he's taken what he's learned and he's started something else. And he says this in the interview. He's not really sure that HTO is the end. He's got other ideas. He's going to continue expanding and doing those things.
It was really interesting. But it was also interesting to hear him talk about how Amarillo is a nice place to kind of experiment with things.
Right. I mean, he said Amarillo is part of the DNA of HTO and Texas Tea, for sure, but also the way that the community just rallies behind a local business, the way that it's successful, people talk about it, people get to know each other, people are happy to see it succeed. He says that's baked in, and the big challenge for him is trying to figure out if this thing that makes Amarillo so special can translate to Midland or to Central Florida or someplace like that.
And he's finding that it is.
He is. Actually, the Midland store is even more successful than the Texas Tea store in Amarillo. Part of that may be climate. It's a little bit hotter there. They don't have the 4 seasons. But he's trying to replicate that special nugget of what happens in Amarillo in other places.
And I also thought it was interesting to learn what his favorite tea flavor is.
Plain, unsweet tea. Yeah, it's like the most boring tea, but
I know, right? He's all these flavors, but he's going to go with plain. Hey, we have a little time. I want to talk about the beer fest that you've got going.
Beer fest.
Oh my gosh, I was very excited to hear about this.
Yeah, so we have not officially rolled out the announcement, but August 3rd at Starlight Ranch, we're going to do a full afternoon that is taste testing of craft beers from local breweries. And so 6-Car will be involved. The Big Texan Brewery, Pondaseta, Long Wooden Spoon. We'll get all those guys in one place, and you'll get to go through, buy tickets, go through, and you can taste all those different beers.
I love that.
And it'll culminate in the concerts. It'll just be a big, fun party at Starlight Ranch.
I like that. Okay, so stick around for more details on that for sure. Where do we download the podcast?
HeyAmarillo.com. Go to Apple Podcasts. Do a search for Hey Amarillo.
All right, we will. Thank you so much. Guess what, guys? Jason's about to go to my home, my mothership, the Boomer Sooner, the land of the great Oklahoma Sooners.
Good place for basketball. I'm not.
Safe travels, my friend. Okay, coming up next.